Attack on Titan is a tragedy disguised as a war epic wrapped in an anime with naked giants. It's one of the most emotionally provocative, thoughtful, and engaging stories of the last decade, which tells not only an insanely entertaining narrative, but effectively delivers an observation about the cyclical nature of war and human society. That must mean it's a completely original idea that stands alone in some godly realm of storytelling, right? Here's the thing, tragedies are nothing new. We've got Oedipus, Romeo and Juliet, Of Mice and Men, and My Love Life, to name a few, where a hero's strengths become their own undoing, or, in the case of Eren Yeager, an insatiable drive to freely see the world results in seeing the world while attempting to block out the screams of the innocent. This isn't only the same reason I hate going on vacation to Disney World, but it's also what makes the story so universally compelling. We love watching the rise and inevitable fall of a noble hero driven to his extreme. Rather than a boy becoming the savior he'd always dreamt of, he becomes the devil himself, willingly or reluctantly. In today's video, we're going to answer what makes a tragic story, what draws an audience to tragedy, how Attack on Titan frames Eren as the tragic hero in a world at war, and finally, package it up all nice and pretty so that the three of you here for writing advice can go tell your own epic stories. Let's get started.
Oh God. It's a Titan.
The anatomy of tragedy isn't a throwback to the dad bod fad. Sorry guys. It's a reference to the parts of a story that all tragedies have. Here's an easy example. Real quick, let's dial the clock back to middle school, or if you went through the public education system like I did, senior year AP literature, where we all had to pretend to have read the Iliad. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but we have this unit named Achilles. He knows he's awesome. Even the gods are like, bruh. He pulls out of the war because his woman gets yoinked by the king, and this gets his friend killed as a consequence. Achilles then puts on his butt-kicking sandals to avenge his friend, conquers Troy, and then gets shot by Orlando Bloom. Every tragedy is set up like this. We have a tragic hero, Achilles, with hubris, normally described as excessive pride, but it's really just excess anything. Excess ambition, willpower, or teenage angst. The hero pushes too hard because of this hubris and passes a point of no return, realizing they messed up shortly thereafter, and then everybody in the audience is left like, bruh. And that's it, that's tragedy in a nutshell. Boom, I just saved you a semester of pretending to read and $2,000 at your local community college. Smash the like button for financial literacy. Now that we've got the bones of a tragic structure, let's take a look at Attack on Titan, fill out this tragic checklist for our boy Eren, and talk about the insanely cool way this story flips the classic formula to make something original.
Ever since I obtained the power of the founding Titan, my head has become a complete mess. The past and future, it's all happening at once.
Let's take all that tragic structure we just broke down, the fatal flaw, the point of no return, the gut punch realization, and hold it up next to Eren Yeager, because on paper, he fits the mold perfectly. He's got a noble goal, a fatal flaw, a point of no return, and eventually, that soul-crushing realization that everything he fought for only led to more destruction. But here's the twist. Most tragic heroes don't realize what they're doing until it's too late. Eren? He sees it all. He knows what's coming. He knows how many people will die. He knows Mikasa will have to kill him. He even cries while watching his future self through the eyes of a child, before he's even done anything. He knows exactly what kind of monster he's about to become, and he does it anyway, because in his mind, it's the only way. That's the part that hits hardest. It isn't the tragedy of someone too proud to see the consequences. This is the tragedy of someone who sees the consequences in vivid, horrifying detail, and still walks forward because every other path feels worse. That turns Eren's story from a traditional fall from grace into something deeper. This is a man willingly sacrificing his soul for what he sees as the lesser evil. He's not crushed by fate, he embraces it. That moment where he tells Ramsay,
I'm sorry.
Before stomping his entire town into rubble, that's not a villainous shrug. That's our tragic hero's collapse in slow motion. He's apologizing for something he hasn't even done yet, but already knows he will, because he thinks He knows he has to. And that's what sets Attack on Titan apart from ancient tragedies. This isn't a story about someone losing control. It's about someone realizing they never had control in the first place, only choices, and all of them were terrible. Eren's greatest tragedy isn't that he blindly becomes the devil, it's that he becomes the devil with his eyes wide open, knowing that if the world has to burn, he will decide where to set the fire. But why are we drawn to this? What is the appeal of watching our hero fall from grace, watching them suffer, and seeing their sacrifice lead to all of this destruction?
On your feet, Dad. You're not done yet. In case you've forgotten, you have your own reasons for coming.
We all want a happy ending. Not like that. I mean the kind where all the heartbreak, loss, and suffering actually meant something, where the hero finally earns that carrot dangling from the end of a stick since Chapter 1. So why would anyone willingly watch a tragedy? And not just watch it, love it. I mean, think about it. You invest hours, years, following a hero through impossible odds, only to watch them break, fall, or die. That shouldn't be satisfying. And yet it is. Now, Homer and a TED Talk that I watched are both saying that this is because the audience fears and pities the fate of the protagonist. We fear death, pain, and betrayal. But through tragedy, we get to feel those emotions from a safe distance. Like horror movies, we get the thrill without the consequence. Tragedy hits our primal nerves and lets us walk away untouched. And sure, that's cool and all, but I'm not happy with that answer. A hero, be it traditional or tragic, is meant to put a viewer in the story. I get it, but I think there's more going on under the surface. A good hero, whether they're tragic or triumphant, lets the audience project. We see Achilles, we become Achilles. We see Walter White, we become Walter White. For better or worse. But it doesn't feel right to say that we consume these stories to experience the rush of being a legendary warrior or great chemist, only to watch them fall from these great heights. With a tragic story, we aren't just climbing into the hero's skin, we're being challenged to walk a mile in it, right up until they do the unthinkable. And I mean, hell, I think sometimes we even go multiple miles after that. I don't think any of us started watching Attack on Titan thinking Eren's success would mean turning the world into a very shallow lake of squishy people parts. And maybe that's another part of the appeal. We want to be tricked. Like a magic act, there is a part of us that wants to be misled and shown why our initial assumptions were wrong in one aspect or another. We're all on board with supporting a boy who lost his mother in his quest for revenge and freedom, but will you still support him when that quest transforms 80% of the world into a soggy Utah? Looked at in reverse, a tragedy asks the question if you would ever support destroying everything that isn't Madagascar, and of course you would say, no, I'd never consider it. But then, you get to know this one lovable, ambitious kid for a few years, and when asked the question again, you're forced to say, well, okay, still no, but maybe I'd consider it. A portion of what makes Attack on Titan fun is that it forces us to reconsider pretty adamant beliefs, not just about logic and the world, but also about ourselves. Are we bad people if we sympathize with Eren and understand why he bulldozes the world? Are we good people for disagreeing with Eren and deciding he should just lay down and die out of moral obligation? Tragedy dramatizes how the world isn't black and white, which then leads to the third part of why I think people are drawn to it. Tragedy gives people permission to enjoy watching a good person do bad things. No matter what you tell your therapist, everyone believes deep down that they are a good person. If put into a hard situation, we all want to believe that we would do what is right, not what was easy. But then we look back at our lives and can find at least one example where we weren't great, where we failed, where we weren't the hero we wished we were, and we're left wondering, am I a bad person? Why these discussions about AOT, and more specifically Eren Yeager, start so many conversations is because we're all left feeling conflicted once the series ends. Is Eren a monster who made the best choice possible? Is he a hero that saved his friends at the expense of the world? Or something in the middle? Tragedy follows this logic, leaving its audience with the question of, is the hero wrong for the right reason? Furthermore, we might even ask ourselves, am I a bad person if, in trying to do the right thing, everything goes wrong? Tragedies remind us that this is the human condition. that an evil act does not define an evil character, and it gives us permission to cheer for the imperfect hero, and for ourselves. Tragedy tells us you're not alone. Being human is messy, and sometimes the hero loses, but that doesn't mean the story wasn't worth telling.
You tricked me. After what you said, I respected you, but you were just using me. Yeah, I was. I'm sorry.
Writing a tragedy isn't just about making your audience cry into their popcorn. It's about crafting a story that leaves them feeling heavy. Not just sad, but unsettled, reflective, maybe even a little changed. Here's a reminder that stories don't have to teach a lesson. Most of the time, that ruins them. But if you can get your audience to think, you've made something to be proud of. Here's a little secret. A good tragedy doesn't happen by accident. It follows a structure. Not a rigid formula, but a rhythm of rising hope and inevitable collapse. So, let's break down the steps to building a tragedy that hits harder than the Warhammer Titan, and look at how Attack on Titan executes each one flawlessly. Step 1. Start with a hero who's actually worth rooting for. Every tragedy begins with a protagonist who has the potential to be great. That means they don't start as villains. They start as idealists, visionaries, protectors with the capacity for greatness, people we'd want to follow into battle. Even if they're flawed, they're still striving towards something noble. Eren's journey starts as pure as they come. Protect his friends, avenge his mother, fight for a beach vacation. It's why we get invested. We believe in him. He believes in himself. And his quest is noble, even if he is a smidge dramatic, which is our second point. Give them a fatal flaw that feels like a strength. The classic Greek word is hamartia, a trait that's not evil, just extreme. Something good taken too far. Think hot sauce. In a world of black pepper, Eren is a jalapeno rub that's slightly abrasive at first and gradually becomes a butt burn from hell before it's all over. For Eren, it's his obsession with freedom that causes this fiery bathroom break. That's admirable, right? Who doesn't want to be free? But the tragedy is that his version of freedom requires annihilation. First of the Titans, then of everybody beyond the walls. His obsession starts to outweigh the lives of the majority in favor of his priority. This is crucial. The flaw must be understandable. If your tragic hero is just evil from the jump, we won't care when they fall. We'll want them to fall. But with Eren, we're left hoping that there is some choice for him to make which allows him to have his cake and eat Willy Tiber too. And that leads us to step number 3. Offer them a choice. Or several. Here's where things get interesting. A tragedy needs moments where the hero could choose another path, but doesn't. Eren's future sight mechanic turns this into our brilliant subversion. He sees the consequences before he acts, every single path from best to worst scenario, and then he has to take the step forward. He knows that he's walking into a slaughterhouse. He just needs to choose who comes out alive. This amplifies the tragedy because it's not fate dragging him, it's his own convictions. It's not a single choice either. It's choice after choice that pulls him deeper into the abyss. And this is where we get to be really big turd sandwiches as writers, because now we have to push our hero past the point of no return. Every tragedy has that one moment, the thing that cannot be undone. For Eren, it's everything that falls between kissing Historia's hand and the rumbling. This period of time is both a moment of clarity, albeit a very long moment, and a terrible act in which he rationalized the best future for his friends and everything that mattered to him. Once those Titans start marching and Eren gets the sweetest view of hell from the skies, there's no stopping what's coming. His goal may be noble in his eyes, but the cost is beyond justification, even though we love and understand Eren's choice. This is the moment the audience starts to feel uncomfortable. They'll still be with the hero, but something feels wrong, and that tension, that's the heart of tragedy. That's where we root for the good person who does bad things, and wonder if they are worthy of redemption. To an extent, your hero should have this same question for themselves, which brings us to step number 5. Let them realize the truth. Too late. This is the part that really stings, when the hero finally understands what they've become, when they see the full weight of their actions and there's no going back because 80% of the world is teeth and hair. Eren doesn't just realize what he's done, he anticipated it. He knows Mikasa will kill him, he knows the pain he's about to inflict, and he still moves forward. It's a tragedy within a tragedy, a ghost pepper popper stuffed with habanero cheese. That's what makes his story so haunting. He isn't surprised by his downfall, he orchestrates it, becoming a reluctant monster in a sacrificial attempt to protect what he loved most. And this frustration, this clear dissonance between picking what is good and what is irredeemable, is what leads us to step 6. Leave the audience changed. This is the difference between a good tragedy and a forgettable one. A good tragedy lingers. It forces the audience to confront questions they didn't know they were asking or even signing up for when they first started watching the show. Attack on Titan doesn't give us a clear answer. Was Eren right? Was he wrong? Is there such a thing as necessary evil? What does freedom actually cost? Would we or could we have done anything different if put in the same situation? You don't walk away from the show with closure. You walk away with discomfort. And that's the point. Tragedy isn't about punishment. It's about the terrifying realization that good people can do terrible things and still think they're doing the right thing. So, if you're writing your own tragic story, don't just break your characters. Make us understand why they broke. And maybe make us wonder if we'd have broken too.
Right now, the nations of the world are united in their desire to exterminate my people. They won't be satisfied until every last subject of Ymir is dead. I won't let them have their way.
So, what do we take away from all of this? That writing a tragedy isn't about making people sad, it's about making them feel something complicated. It's about crafting a story that starts with hope and ends with hard questions. And, when it's done right, it stays with your audience long after the credits roll. Attack on Titan could have just been a brutal action anime about killing titans, but instead, it used its final seasons to dissect the soul of its protagonist, and by extension, ask something of the audience. Not for our approval, not for our forgiveness, but for our honesty. Could you have done better if you were Eren? Can you forgive Eren after understanding his pain? Those questions, impossible to answer, but impossible to ignore, are the mark of a story that matters. So, if you're writing a tragedy, don't aim to devastate, aim to challenge. Peel back your character's armor, let them bleed a little, and when they fall, let it mean something. Because in the end, the best tragedies don't just show us someone else's downfall. They make us look in the mirror and ask, what would I have done? And maybe that's the kind of story worth telling. Thanks for watching. My book is on Amazon, and there's another in the works, and to all of you out there writing your own stories, go tell the best ones possible.